Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are gonna do some brewing. Yeah, we're still going strong with our theme of the new Lord of the Rings cards. Today we are going to be taking a look at the new Saruman of Many Colors. We are once again getting to see the brilliance of some of these Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond cards, and see how they are incorporating flavor, how they're incorporating some really cool, fun things into these really fun, unique cards that I love to see, being the huge Lord of the Rings nut that I am. So, yeah, let's take a look at Saruman here. Uh, First thing that I love is that it's Saruman of Many Colors. Um, while I think that Peter Jackson did a wonderful, amazing, beautiful job with adapting these books into movie format, there were some things that unfortunately I think had to be cut, or that he just decided to change, or the team as a whole decided to change and leave out. One of them was the fact that we have Saruman, who was part of the White Council, part of the band of heroes of the very wise, who are fighting together to stop the return of Sauron. But in his immense knowledge, being the wisest amongst all the wizards that came to Middle Earth, um, he kind of ended up being corrupted by the temptation of evil and the temptation of power. And so when he traps Gandalf towards the beginning of the story, he reveals that he is no longer Saruman the White, but he is instead Saruman of Many Colors, and he has the full color spectrum of the rainbow in his cloak to signify that he is reaching beyond what his role is, what his power is, with the wizards each having sort of a responsibility associated with their color. Saruman here, we see in the books and in the movies that Saruman is his magic. Sure, he casts spells. He's able to summon forth great magical powers. We see that. Well, in the movies, they show him, striking a snowstorm and lightning storm on the Fellowship at the Pass of Caradhras when they try to pass. But we see more in the books the knowledge of Saruman with his ability to create the Uruk-hai, his ability to still, cast what I think most people would consider typical, like, high fantasy spells, things like that. But the main power of Saruman, and his most deadly power, is his voice, his deep, persuasive voice that he uses to great effect to almost like bewitch other people into, listening to his wisdom and listening to the things that he has to say and the things that he wants them to do. And so we see that here with this card. So he is a Esper legendary creature, costing 3 white, blue, black. Legendary creature, Avatar Wizard, great typing because none of the wizards are actually human. They may look human, but they're actually much closer to avatars. They're more akin to like angels. So Gandalf and Radagast and Saruman, they're much closer to what we would call angels more so than humans. But yes, he's a 5/4 creature with ward, discard an enchantment, instant, or sorcery card. I love that already. I love seeing sort of the more specific kinds of ward that have been coming out recently. Now, his actual ability is it's much more easier to explain this way. So let's say you cast your second spell. Okay, once you cast your second spell and it is on the stack, each opponent mills 2 cards. Then, once all the cards are milled from your opponents, you exile 1 target enchantment, instant, or sorcery with equal or lesser mana value than the spell you initially cast that caused people to mill the cards from their deck. Then you get to copy that spell and then cast it without paying its mana cost. Reading the actual text itself, it threw me for a loop. I had to consult with Millsy to make sure that I was understanding everything correctly. But then once you've cast that that enchantment, instant, or sorcery that you've exiled, then your second spell that you initially cast resolves. I believe I got that, if I'm understanding all that correctly. All that happens before your second spell that you cast even resolves. So this is very much sort of a control strategy, wanting to play other people's stuff. Saruman definitely being the kind of person to bring someone in and be like, hey, you should join my cause. You should, he even has this whole conversation with Gandalf, join me, and together, this is sounding very Darth Vader-esque, but, join me, and we could overthrow Sauron, and we could be the Lords of the Ring. We could have the power. We could be the Lords. And so we see that playing in here, where it's actually to the detriment of the people that he's manipulating. So this is a great card. I love seeing that. This is very fun to. It's an interesting kind of deck to build around because there are certainly some cards that allow you to build around taking other people's stuff and allow you to capitalize on that even more than just your commander. But wanting to stick to my usual style of building thematically and lore accurately, that limited sort of some of my options. Now, this is a deck that I did not keep 100% to the main set, to the Lord of the Rings cards exclusively, but I did get to add a little bit of previous Magic cards. We can even see right here at the beginning the Archivist of Ogma. So we do get to see some of that. But it all kind of works out in some way that still, whether it's the artwork or the card ability or effect, that still plays into Saruman and his role and narrative within the greater Lord of the Rings story. So let's take a look at our lands and go up from there. Running my typical 36 lands. I know I tend to run a few more lands than Millsy does, and maybe more than some of you tend to run, or maybe even less. But I found that 36 is kind of a sweet spot I can reliably get some lands in my draws, on just my regular draws, but not be flooded with them. And as far as the cards I go over today, I'm more so going to point out the ones that I think stick out and the ones that in some lore way or in some mechanical way. So we see Barad-dûr. You have the whole second. The middle part of the story being called the Two Towers, so I felt it very on point to have both Isengard and Barad-dûr in my lands. Barad-dûr is nice. We threw in a little sprinkling of amass, the new amass mechanic into this deck, where if something says amass orcs, 1, 2, X, whatever, you put a 0/0 orc army token out on the field if you don't already have one, and then whatever the number is after amass orcs, you put that many +1/+1 counters on. So I've got a little bit of amass here. We're running a lot of instants and sorceries because this is Saruman. He's a wizard, has a lot of magic. So not only does this fit flavor-wise, I think it fits mechanically as well. Of course, we've got staples like Command Tower, Exotic Orchard. I tried to not have a whole lot of white land because I played a lot into the Dimir blue-black playstyle more so than tapping into anything that's white. There's some white cards in here and some that I thought were good includes, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of blue and black, and we can see that especially in my basic lands, those pretty full art basic lands. Rafine's Tower, I thought that was, again, this is one that maybe doesn't fit, but it's a tower that gives us the colors that we want. Saruman is based out of the Tower of Isengard in Orthanc, so I figured that's a tie-in. He's part of the Council of the Wise, the White Council of the Wise. So they typically meet in Rivendell. I thought that was a fun one to put in there as well. Some dual lands here. All the temples, because I like the temples. I know they're not the greatest dual lands, but free scry. And then it kind of stinks that they come in tapped, but usually that doesn't affect me too much with my game. All right, we're going to move on up to the enchantments. So again, we are running kind of a control, hopefully not stacks, but a control. Let me influence the way that people are playing. Let me take some of the stuff out of your graveyard, stuff like control magic. Give me that creature. Saruman's voice is very similar to this control magic. The Court of Cunning. Saruman is a very cunning wizard. He has a great deal of knowledge and wisdom. And who doesn't want to introduce monarchy into into their games? Get some of that extra card draw, and then this also plays into that mill strategy. Propaganda is a card that disincentivizes people from attacking us, especially since we're not running hardly any creatures. To be honest, same with Revenge of Ravens. One ring to rule them all. The flavor here is really nice because Saruman is trying to play Sauron and saying, "Oh, I serve you, my lord." But honestly, he just wants the ring for himself so that he can overthrow Sauron, and he wants to have the one ring that rules them all. Smothering Tithe, again, taking advantage of the stuff that our opponents do. They draw some cards, cool. Give me some treasure. Storm of Saruman is a very fun new card, playing into Saruman's ability of activating when you cast your second spell. This is one that whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it, and except the copy isn't legendary. So yeah, a lot of instants and sorceries here. So just it's a 6 mana enchantment, but from that point on, as long as your opponents don't destroy it or remove it in some way, all of your second spells are doubled. And we have a few legendary creatures, but for the most part, the second spells that we're casting aren't going to be legendary. So we'll just free copies. It's awesome. Moving up into artifacts, we've got a lot of mana rocks with a couple talismans, couple signets, arcane signet, and soul ring kind of being my staples for mana rocks. I could have included Felwar Stone here, but I decided, that I got Exotic Orchard, so there's some other things that I think took precedence over. I added Mind Crank and Strionic Resonator because Saruman has a very mechanical mindset. I believe Tolkien took a lot of influence from the Industrial Revolution and the modernization that was happening around him, whereas he valued sort of a more traditional, peaceful, idyllic, pastoral kind of life. And he saw the modernization going on around him and saw it as not great. And so he incorporated some of those values into Saruman of, valuing industrialization. So these sort of, machines that play into the mechanics of the deck with Mind Crank, milling cards when opponents are damaged. Strionic Resonator, you get, pay 2 extra mana, you can copy the Saruman's triggered ability or, really any other triggered ability that you might want if Saruman's not on your field. So having those machines tie in with his, as Treebeard puts it, mind of metal and wheels. The Palantir of Orthanc. This is this card could be garbage for all I care. It could have completely different text and be, just awful. I would still put it in here because this is a key part of Saruman's narrative of having one of the seeing stones, the Plantiri, that allow communication and vision across each of the stones. We find out that Sauron has one. We find out that Denethor has one in Gondor. And so this is how Saruman gets a lot of his information. But this is nice because, it's potentially at the very least, it's scrying. If not, then you get to draw a card or you mill the players. So, again, what's not to like? It plays in very, very much so to Saruman's play style. And then lastly, we have the One Ring because, again, this is what Saruman and so many other forces in Middle-earth are trying to get and or destroy. So Having this in here again, who's going to say no to some card draw? It does come at the cost of a little bit of life incrementally, but who's going to say no to some card draw, and who's going to say no to some protection from everything? All right, so let's get to our spells now. We'll start with the instants. Lots of instants and sorceries. I tried to play into Saruman's power of his voice. So we have things like an offer you can't refuse. Being Saruman is very good at, it seems like he's telling you something that you want to hear, and that's a great deal for you, or something that he's enticing you and tempting you with something that you want. So getting to counter something, but to me, this is nice fair magic. This is like, I'm going to counter your spell, but you know what? You're not going to walk away with nothing. I know I did put in counter spell in here, but this is more fair magic. It doesn't bring stuff to a complete halt. There's still some sort of momentum that can happen. Same kind of deal with arcane denial. Playing, and Sauron is pictured here on the art, but again, Saruman definitely plays into this as well. Frantic search, because Saruman is very studious. Again, who doesn't like card draw and then getting to untap lands? Yeah, because I love how if you pay for this by tapping 3 lands, then this is a free wheel. I was a free loot. And who doesn't like that? You get refunded the mana you just spent. Lost to Legend, Saruman again looking for the ring. This isn't counters, but maybe it can delay something from coming back out. Orcish medicine, this being the medicine and the again more devilry that Saruman creates for his fighting Uruk-hai army, plays a little bit more into the amass mechanic. There's the scene where the Uruk-hai give Merry and Pippin some of their orcish medicine that technically heals them and is very effective at granting additional stamina, but it tastes god awful. So yeah, give some lifelink or indestructible until end of turn, and then amass. That's nice. Saruman himself is put into exile towards the end of the story, and he is cast out from Isengard and cast out from Orthanc. Getting closer to the end of the story, and towards the end of the second book, beginning of the third movie, I think. And he is defeated by Gandalf. His staff gets broken. He loses a lot of his power, but it's symbolic that he's lost his place as one of the Istari, one of the wizards. So Path to Exile is up. To me, if a deck has white in its color pie, Path to Exile and or Swords to Plowshares are always going to be an auto include for me, but the art and the exile part played in very nicely. Render Silent, again, just showcasing the power of Saruman, more counter magic. More counter magic here with Saruman's trickery, getting some more amass. And then we've got some sorceries, some austere command. This is mostly just to have some options in case things get out of hand, out of my favor. I can maybe tip the balance. Entrancing Melody, speaking into that ability for Saruman to manipulate and to persuade people to join his side with the almost soothing melody of his voice. We got some more Mill with Extract from Darkness, Feed Destruction with Feed the Swarm, Board Wipe, and some life. No, I'm sorry. This isn't Fumigate. Destroy all creatures with greater power than target creature's power. So if we want to specifically wipe out some particular creatures, then this is the way. Mill some cards, scry and draw, Treason of Isengard, some more amass, but then also we get to recycle some of the instants and sorceries that may have hit, or one of the instants and sorceries that have already made its way to our graveyard. If there's a particularly powerful play that we want to maybe do the next turn, or if we have a way to draw a card and get it in our hand that very turn, this is a good way to do it. some more amass and milling. So again, playing right into Sauron's strategy of pulling stuff out from other people's graveyards. Another board wipe in Supreme Verdict. Subjugate the Hobbits is beautiful. I can see this really being effective against a lot of go wide token decks. If if someone's got 21 on their field, congratulations, those are all mine now. Any other sort of value piece that may have that's CMC 3 or less, but also just the tie into the very end of the story when our 4 Hobbit heroes, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, make their way back to the Shire. They've found that it's incredibly different. There's prisons. There's almost martial law. Resources being stripped bare, and the Shire, known for this idyllic, peaceful place, has been turned into a place of decay and machines. That's because Saruman, when he was exiled, went and set himself up in the Shire as sort of like a petty, I'm getting back at the hobbits, and he set himself up as the sort of Shire kingpin of evil. And so subjugating the hobbits is a great card lore, and it plays into, again, his idea of gaining control and bringing people onto his side with his powers of persuasion. This is a way to get some fun creatures, especially since we don't have very many creatures ourselves. So again, getting stuff for ourselves. Ringsight is a beautiful tutor. Search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control. Put it in your hand. That's great. What's not to like there? Any card. Most of the tutors are specific for a certain card type, but this just says no. It just has to match the color scheme. And then we got Reanimate in here for some of the milling that's going to happen, in case we want to grab something, like grab a creature that got milled in the process of all the milling that we're doing. All right, and finally, we're at the modicum of creatures that we have here. Archivist of Ogma, just to benefit off of other people's library searching, which tends to be a somewhat common thing in Commander. Corsairs of Umbar, tying into the amass mechanic. Dunland Crebain, these are Saruman's spies. They are some of the beasts that follow him and do some of his spying. They're his sort of eyes and ears out into the land. So I felt very good adding this. But it's mostly there for the flavor, as just the one-time amass, and having a 1/1 flyer for 3 isn't the greatest. One of Saruman's key henchmen is Grima Wormtongue. He is the one that is there sort of poisoning the mind of King Theoden of Rohan for quite a while, to the point where Theoden become through Grima, Saruman works his power of leechcraft almost, and just sapping away the mental and physical energy of Theoden to where he is basically incapable of leading the people of Rohan against Saruman as he goes to wipe out the men of Rohan. And Grima is for a while at least, is a key instrument in that. So the main Grima Wormtongue card, I just like keeping people from gaining life. That's just a fun little thing to put in there. It works in with the way that he saps Theoden's fortitude and lively vigor. I don't see us doing much in the way of sacrificing other creatures, but maybe we have something. Maybe we get control of a legendary creature of someone else's, and we can amass a little bit. This one I find to be the much better version of Grima. When it can't be blocked when you declare an attack with it, and then when it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Then all the other cards that were exiled that you didn't cast get put on the bottom of their library. So again, we're stealing some more stuff, beautiful tie-in with how Saruman of Many Colors works. Hostage Taker, again, we're taking either a creature or artifact off the table, and then as long as it remains exiled, then we can cast it. So this is sort of interesting because there's several cards out there that are like, oh, when this creature or this enchantment enters the battlefield, exile this card until this leaves, until this card that exiled it leaves. We still have that with Hostage Taker, but we get the added bonus of being able to cast it for ourselves. So that's a fun, I think, fun twist on it. We do have a lot of instants and sorceries, so the Lord of the Nazgul, I think, is a great way to get some tokens out there, so we can buff our, not great amazing creature count. Every time you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to create a 3/3 black wraith with menace. I don't particularly see us getting up to 9 wraiths this way, but who knows? If we do, awesome. Then all wraiths have a base power and toughness of 9/9 until end of turn. Freaking great. Let's go. Let's profit from all of these instants and sorceries that we have in our deck and that we'll be taking from other people's graveyards. Lotho Corrupt Sheriff is a hobbit that sort of helps Saruman take control of the Shire, and he's sort of helped subjugate the hobbits. He's there as sort of the corrupt policeman, as it were. But we're tying into when a player casts their second spell type stuff. So whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life or create a treasure token. Who doesn't like treasure tokens? Orcish Bowmaster. This is a card that's getting a lot of attention. Getting to amass, getting to deal 1 damage to any target for each time an opponent draws a card outside of their first one in the draw phase. This is a good card. Got to have a couple more versions of Saruman. When he takes over the Shire, he goes by a different name, Sharky. So this is sort of denying your opponents the ability to use the abilities of their lands. They can still make mana with their lands, but any other abilities that their lands might have, too bad, you don't got it anymore. And then Sharky is able to activate those abilities that your opponent's lands have. And then we're doing more, putting more into the amass mechanic here with this second spell cast each turn. Wargs are the main mount of the orcs of Isengard, and Mordor as well, but wargs play a particular, I guess, more prominent point in the armies of Isengard and the armies of Saruman more so than Sauron. So I put this in here. Not an amazing card, but a 3/4, potentially 4/4 with menace. I won't turn that down, I guess. Mouth of Sauron. Again, we're tying into the mill and the amass. And then also into the amount of instants and sorceries that are in our opponent's graveyards. Uruk-hai Berserker, because Saruman is the inventor, the breeder of Uruk-hai. They don't exist in Middle-earth prior to him, as he mixed orcs with goblin men. So, again, we're not doing too much of anything with the ring tempting us, but this is more so just a flavor. And then lastly, we have the Witch King of Angmar, which is another name for the Lord of the Nazgul. And then there's even a third Witch King. I think Witch King, Bringer of Ruin, I think is the third one. This is the one that I might like the best. Just because it's like, it's kind of in a similar vein of propaganda, where it's, you want to attack me? Okay, well, you're gonna lose some stuff when you do, because if you attack me with a bunch of creatures, well, you're gonna have to sacrifice one of them. And then there is a way to give it indestructible in case someone doesn't like that ability. So that's the deck as a whole. What do you guys say that we do some playtesting and see how we do? Okay. Yeah, 4 lands. That's not bad, especially since we've got a decently expensive commander with 6 mana, and then an arcane signet on top of that. Yeah, I think we'll keep this. All right, let's see what we got. I don't think we have anything with 1 mana, so let's go ahead and bring out Barad-dûr. Okay, well, ideally we would have 2 or more opponents, so let's get the Morphic pull out there with the Arcane Signet. Oh man, we're just hitting all the lands. Let's see. I don't think we have access to white yet, so let's get one of these planes out there. We don't have any creatures for our instant. Then we don't have any in our graveyard. Wow, we are just hitting land after land after land. Well, I mean, the next turn we can cast Saruman, so that's nice. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and cast Saruman. We've probably taken a few hits at this point. And then we go to our next turn. Okay, so now at this point we can start casting some of these second spells. So I would probably go for the Frantic Search. 10, 1, 2, 3. Draw 2, then discard 2. Okay. I tell you, I don't know that we need this Temple of Enlightenment. And then I guess depending on the board state, we could either discard Orcish Medicine or Path to Exile. I would imagine at this point someone's got a decent creature up, so we could probably Orcish Medicine, and then go in. So then that's goes to the graveyard, and then for our second spell for the turn, we can cast Treason of Isengard. I would probably want to put. I think I really like Frantic Search. And then, we would get to amass 2. So we would create, we would get a 2/2 army token. And then at that point, we would mill and see what everybody has. Okay, let's start again. See what else we can pull off. Only 2 lands this time. Do we hope for a good one? We do have a couple spells we can cast. Yeah, I think we need to mulligan. This is not any better. But we do have some scry. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's scry. Okay, that can go back. And then next turn, we can bring out an island. Next turn. Can't play any of the spells in our hand. Ooh, still can't. Okay. All right, so at this point, I guess we could have played Surrounded by Orcs. But yeah, we're having a bit of a hard time getting some cards to play. So yeah, I guess at this point I would cast Surrounded by Orcs, so at least we get some manner of creature out. And then somebody mills 3. Okay, so Rafine's Tower comes in time, but now we finally have access to white mana. We can put Surrounded by Orcs back on top of our library. And we got it back. Maybe not the smartest thing to do since we need some more lands, but now we can turn our 3/3 into a 6/6, and then someone mills 6. Man, we are having a hard time getting white mana. I think at this point we cast Saruman, and then on our next turn we start casting some of these other spells. We can very easily cast, Lotho. We can very easily, and then something else to destroy something else, or we can take control of a different creature, and then the engine is going. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I'm excited to potentially test out Saruman of Many Colors some more. Again, the flavor of the Lord of the Rings seems just amazing, great. I'm so happy. I'm brewing all of these legendary creatures left, right, and sideways. So yeah, we'll hope to see you next time.